In this video, we're going to see how to use a new beta feature in Flow that helps us to make a call to an external API. So earlier to this, we have to use a custom coding. We have to write an Apex code to make a call to an external API, and then bring the data and then tie it back to the or display it back to the org. But this new feature will help you as an administrator to make a call to an external API and then use your flow logic to parse through the response and then bring the data bring data to life. So this is what we are going to learn in this particular video. Let's quickly take a business use case and then see how we can able to leverage this new beta feature. So this is the business use case. We are going to do it for a finance team. So a SoftTrade is a company that uses a multi-currency in their business, and recently that finance team that takes care of all the currency conversions, etc. They signed up with a provider to share daily currency exchange rates, through an API. Because they wanted to ensure that the exchange rates are accurate so that they can use it in Salesforce, in business opportunities, contracts, orders, etc., etc. And this is what they will give, as information to the Salesforce admin so that the administrator can manage all the exchange rates in Salesforce because the business requires, right, multi-currency support, isn't it? So now the finance team is looking for a way to see the currency conversion rate, right? Everyday currency conversion rate, the data that is coming in from this external API. So now, as a Salesforce administrator, how can I do this without writing a single line of code? Yeah, let's see how we can able to build this using a nice flow, right? And then show the supported currencies, right, in a page to the finance team. So this is how this is what you will learn in this by doing this use case. The first one is we will use a flow where we will show all the supported currency rates, and then of course we will use this action called HTTP callouts, which is right now in a beta version. We'll just see how we can use that inside a flow. We will be using a third party exchange rate API. I'll just quickly show you which API we are going to use it in this video, and then we will configure. We will see how we can use external credentials and named credentials to ensure our Salesforce external service communicate to that API. So for which we have to certainly, right, use named credentials, external credentials plus a permission set. So we'll just see how we can use all these things, right, to implement this particular business use case. And then this is how we would like to see the output. So we do have an application for finance team, and on their home page, right, we wanted to show the today's exchange rate. So this particular Salesforce org, right, for SoftTrade. So this supports multiple currencies, pounds, euros, and UAE, then INR. So we wanted to show only the conversion rate for these supported currencies, not anything else. Yeah. So this is what we wanted to show, and this is a simple flow that we will be designing. Yeah, you can just see high level flow steps. As you can just see, right, it's a screen flow that is going to make a call out to the external API, which we will discuss very shortly. And then once a response is received, then we will be creating a nice screen just to show the currency conversion rates. So the base currency is USD. So as you can just see right here, and these are the conversion or the exchange rates for other currencies. Yeah, this is what we're going to build in the screen. So that's it. Yeah, this is what we're going to do it. Let's jump in and then start creating the flow. Before we start creating a flow, let's first create a permission set. So this is essential. So whichever the user that makes a call to the external API certainly requires this permission set. So the first thing is, let's first create a permission set. Let me add a new one. So I'm going to give access to make external API call. So that's the name of my permission set. So let me just save this. That step one is completed. Perfect. So let me go and then try to create credentials, named and external credentials. So now we are going to make a call out, right, from Salesforce to an external API. The API that we are going to use is this. So exchange rate-api.com offers a free API. Again, a free has some limitations, but certainly that can help you to, to test your flow. At least in this case, I want to bring the current exchange rate, right? So for that purpose, a free API will certainly help. They do have additional plans, premium, business, etc., that offers, various other functionalities. But this one, all we have to do is, we just have to sign up with our email address, and then you will get a key, an API key. And why API key is important? Because if you go to the documentation, the main API is what we are going to use, which is this. So you will be, making a call to this endpoint by supplying the API key. So as soon as you sign up, and a key gets generated, and that you can use it to make a call, to this endpoint. So that's what we will be doing it. And this is the sample response, that you get. As you can just see, it talks about, it just shows, the response as success. And this is, what is important. The base currency is USD, and these are the conversion rates, by keeping base currency as USD, as you can just see right here, right? So this gives me a list of, all the almost 46 currencies, I believe. So you'll get everything. But in our case, right, we don't want to go through each and every currency. Instead, we have a set of supported currency, right? Pound, euro, INR, etc. We'll just focus only on those currencies. We'll just see how we can able to retrieve or read this response and then bring the data right to the flow to display it on the screen. Yeah, and this is how it will look like. So as you can just see, right, I made a call to that endpoint. I just masked my API key. Okay, so this is the response that I received. Okay, so I guess you can just see this, right? So a lot of countries exchange rates are available. Yeah. So this is what we are going to use it. Let's just jump in and then try to configure our external API. Okay, so this is the endpoint, right? All I have to do is I just have to replace my API key. So let's go back to our Salesforce org, and first let's create an external credential. That's the very first thing that I want to do it. So let me click on new. I'm gonna say that this is an exchange rate API. I'm gonna say EC just to denote that it is an external credential. Yeah. So exchange, maybe I'll just copy this, put it right here. This has to be unique, and I don't think it will accept spaces. Yeah. So authentication protocol. So right now the API that we are using, right, for implementing this use case does not require any authentication except that API key. Yeah, it does not require OAuth, or it does not require, right, any certificate kind of based authentication. It's very, very simple. So I'm not going to choose OAuth or AWS signature version 4. Both are supported, protocols. I'm gonna say custom. That's it. I'll just save this. Done. Okay, very, very simple, right? So once this is done, let's map the permission set. Yeah, let's map the permission set that we just created a few minutes ago. Let's click on new. Okay, I'm gonna search for the permission set. Yeah, I can just see this right away. So this is the permission set that I would like to map. And when you assign this permission set, right, you have additional options to set the authentication parameter, right? Sometimes you want to pass the authentication parameters on the URL, right? Right. So because we chose custom as the authentication protocol, right? But in this case, no, we don't have to do that because it is plain and simple. All I have to do is just access that endpoint and then retrieve the response. So no authentication parameter, nothing is required. Let's click on save. As simple as that. So now external credentials setup is completed, isn't it? So now let's go back and then try to create a named credential, and this is where you configure all the URLs, etc. But before you do that, if the API that you are going to use in your project requires some custom headers setting, right? Then you can certainly add custom headers while you make a call to this API endpoint. So based on the requirements of how you would be using that API. It could be, in this case, exchange rate API. You could use map APIs. You could use address APIs, etc. So read through the API documentation and then see if it is if it requires sending a custom method, then just configure it right here. Okay, but in this case, no such requirements, so we'll just leave it as is. Okay, so two things we did: we created a permission set, we created external credential, and then we just mapped the permission set and external credential. Step two is completed. So let's go back and then quickly create step three. Where did it go? Yeah. So name the credential. So the external credential is done. Click on name credential. Let me click on new. I'm gonna give a name exchange rate um, API exchange rate service API, and I'll say NC just to indicate that it's a named credential. And this is where you configure your endpoint, the URL that you would like to make a call to, right? So which is this, isn't it? I'll just copy this. I'll just put it right here. I will be replacing the API key very shortly. Okay. So once this is done, and authentication. So this is where you map the external credential. So this is how you just tie in name credential and external credential and keep all the authentication related configurations safe and secure. So let's choose that. Okay, and I'm not using any additional, additional authentication approaches like certificate based authentication. If your API requires certificate based authentication, you can certainly configure a client certificate right here, the public key. Yeah, so we do have other options, but in our case, these options are really not required. Yeah, so let me just click on save. Okay, yeah, and let's move forward. Now step 3 is completed. All right, so my named credential step 3, that is completed, and this is the one that we just created, right? And I just replaced that API key with my actual key. This is the partial API key. Okay, so good. So this is cool. And now let's go back. Now it's time for us to create our flow, right? So the setup is completed, but before we go and then do that, let's go to the users. And then I'm gonna assign the permission set to the users. I just picked, the user, which the user, the system administrator, and then I'm just simply going to assign that permission set that we just created, at the start of our configuration. Okay, so if you don't do this, then you will get an error when the flow runs. So it is important to map the permission set, the same permission set, to the user. Okay, so let me just add this and let me just save. All right, now that's done. So let's go back and then try to create our flow. So I'm going to use a screen flow. Let me do that very quickly. So screen flow done. And the very first thing is, we wanted to make a call out, right, to the external API. So all I have to do is I just have to add an action. And this is what, we have been looking for. Create HTTP call out beta, something new, right? So this is still in beta when this video is recorded. So I'm gonna give a name to my external service. I'll just say exchange rate service. Yeah. Um, yeah. Exchange rate service, and this is where you map that named credential, right? That we created. So we named it external rate. Yeah, I just clicked on the next button. As soon as it is done, right, it will take you to this screen where you can just mention a label, right? So because behind the scenes, Salesforce does everything for you. So it will create a invocable action method, and then it will take all the necessary parameters as input, and then it will just does all the magic behind the scenes. So you don't have to worry about it as an administrator. Yeah. So let me just give a name. I'll just say get exchange rates. Yeah. I'm gonna select a method. Of course, this is a get operation because I'm gonna bring something from the external API. So this is a get operation. Yeah, and this is the the URL, right? My external API endpoint. So it does not require any additional path to be set. So all it needs to do is it just needs to make a call to the external API endpoint. That's it, right? And also it does not require any query parameter. Okay, so you do have placeholders to add information when you make actual call to that URL. But in our case, it's not needed. But before you try this for your own API URL, right? Just read through the documentation and then see if it requires any query string parameter to be passed. Then make use of this placeholder and then do it, right? So the last thing we have to do is we have to just provide a response. This is very important. So based on which Salesforce will give you or will set up this response for you. Okay. So what is the sample response? Remember that I showed you the sample response, right? So right here, it is. Yeah, so this is the sample response I showed you, right? I'll just copy the sample response first. Okay, the entire sample response. I'll go back here and then simply click on new, provide the sample response. Okay, and let's say review. Looks like it is done. So this is the data structure automatically created, the response data structure automatically created. So you will see result something like time, next update, Unix, etc., and then conversion rate. Um, so for now, don't pay more attention to this. Anyways, you will just see, once we complete this step, okay, how to consume this. Okay, so done. Everything is great. Let's say done. Okay, now this is also done. Let's say done. Perfect. So now let me give a name to this action. I will say call exchange rate service. That's my action name. Good. So now this will make a call to the external API, and then as soon as it is done, as soon as the response is received, I want to show that in a screen. Yeah. So let me just bring a display text right here. Okay. I'm gonna say this is USD, and right here, if you just take a look, so this is the action that we just created, right? And when you click, right, it will give you the response. So based on the sample response that you provided in the previous step, automatically a data structure got created, right? Which is what we are going to use it to fetch the data from the returned response. So in our case, if I go to this 2xx and then I can just see the apex defined variables, which is everything is automatically done. All you have to do is just click on this. You will just see all the different currency exchange rates, right? So let's choose this USD first. That's the base currency, right? So let me go and then take this USD. Yeah, so I'm gonna give a nice um, United States. I'll just say it's an USD colon. So let's also ensure that this is appearing in bold. Perfect. So now this will show, this will read the data from the external API response and then show the exchange rate. Now this is the base currency, so it will just show one. So let's add one more display text. Okay, and I'm gonna do it. Let's say this is for UK, and I'll do the same. I'll go to that previous action, go here, apex defined, and I'm gonna go for GBP just to show pound. Yes, right here. Done. So I just say this is United Kingdom and GB. Done. So let me also ensure that this is appearing in bold. Let me add, the other supported currencies, which is in this case, I want to show Europe, right? So I'll go with the same approach. Very quickly, let's select Euro. Done. Let's say Europe. So finally, let me just add one more. So let me put yeah, and let me just choose INR. That's the currency code. Perfect. I'll just simply say yeah, INR. That is it. Perfect. I think this is cool. So let me also ensure that this footer is gone because I don't want to show this footer on the screen, and also label. Yeah. So this is exchange rates and done. Header. I don't want to show the header as well. Um, yes. Let's say done. Perfect. So now the flow is completed. Let's save this first. Okay. And also let's give a name. Let's say today's exchange rates. Yeah, that's the flow name. I'll just say save. Let's debug. Okay, warning because I just disabled both header and footer, right? So that's the reason. So it's okay. Let's debug and then see if this is working or not. All right. Let's click on run. Perfect. As you can just see this, right? It I've received this as a response. Yeah, it contains all the countries, right? Almost all the countries and the currency exchange rates, correct? But we also ensure that we're not showing all the currency exchange rates, but only the currencies that are required, right? In our case. So now you know how to, read the response and then, find only the data that is required, right? Very, very simple. So now let's go back and then just activate this because it just works fine. Let's add this flow in the page and then see how it works. Let's go back here. So I'm in the finance custom application, and this is where I'm going to add this component, the screen flow. So let me go here, let me go and then edit the page. Let me search for flow. Yes, drag and then drop it right here. And right here, just map the flow that we just created, which is today's exchange rates. Done. Save. Let's go back. Now we should see the exchange rates appearing. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, I think I just disabled header. Maybe that's the reason it's not showing up the header. Let me just change that. Let's go to the screen and let's ensure that header, shows up. Done. Save as, get a new version. Yep. And then activate. Let's go back to the screen and then let's refresh. That's it, today's exchange rate, right? So now a finance team member, whoever it is, right, just when they start using Salesforce application and right on their home page, right, they can see today's exchange rate. So keeping United States as a base currency, we can see, or the system will show the current, exchange rate, right, which they can use it for the reporting purpose, or they can use it to provide guidance to the Salesforce administrator to configure exchange rates back in the system. So that's it. So this is how we can use a flow instead of writing a code, right? Instead of writing Apex code, that's how we used to do, in for making any call to external API. So now with this new feature, right, in flow, so a lot of coding time has been saved. So anyways, it is still in beta. Let's wait for a GA, and then let's see what new features are included, when this becomes GA. But for now, this is how we can use external API in the flow and then show up details on the screen.